Hi, I have your file in front of me and I have the clicky copy on. I actually moved the clicky copy to the body layer and I'll turn it off. And I just turned off all your other stuff just so it didn't get in the way. Now, the way I see this is we have 4 shapes that I'm going to paint solid that make up, there might be 5 shapes, that make up what you don't have, what you're calling the shine on the front. First thing is this big light value. So I'm going to call that number 1. So let's do them one at a time. So do you see how I made above your red front layer a number 1 layer? I just made it, and I'm going to use your little clicky copy over here. Let me just make more room on the screen. Okay, and let me move this over so I can kind of zoom in a little bit and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, now I'm going to try to leave it at this size. So I made a number 1 path. Do you see how I made the number 1 path, and I'll show you the clicky copy again, to line up to what that light pink is. So let's start with it. Now each time we're going to paint it hard, then we're going to use Gaussian Blur here to soften the edge, then we're going to use a layer mask to reduce some of the paint each time. Okay, so I hit the B key, I hold Alt, and I sample that light pink. Okay, I'm going to make it just a tad lighter. I always do that. I always make it just a tad lighter because I can always turn the opacity back. Okay, so I'm clicking to number 1 layer. I'll turn off the clicky copy for the moment and hit Alt Backspace. Now, do you see how there's other things that I have to turn off here, which I'm talking about your higher layers. So I'm going to deselect and turn off these higher layers for now. Okay, just these 2 right here. Not the grays, just these red ones. So you see how I've painted that very hard. Okay, I'm going to leave it hard for now. All right, now I want to go to this dark, which is right here. Do you see the dark that I'm pointing to right there? I'm going to do this whole shape dark, hard, Gaussian blur it, and then remove some paint. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about this number 2 shape. So I'll click to the number 2 layer. Now I'll make a selection of it so you can see it's just a huge shape that, again, I'm going to hit the B key, hold Alt, and let's grab this dark value right there. See how I'm grabbing it? Now I'll make it just a tiny bit darker, just a tiny bit darker. And I'm going to make sure I'm on the layer. I'll turn off the clicky copy and I'll hit Alt Backspace. Now I have that dark value. We'll use Gaussian Blur and we'll use the layer mask to make it work. But let me turn the clicky copy on. I now have a layer 3. Now my path number 3 is this path right here. You see that light value right in there? Well, we're going to use the same method. So I'm going to make a selection of it. We're going to zoom in, hit the B key, hold Alt, and grab this light value. Again, watch, make it a little lighter, just a little lighter. Click to number 3 layer, turn off the clicky copy, and Alt Backspace. Now I have that one in there. Okay, all we have to do is use our Gaussian Blur and our layer mask to make it work. Now I have a number 4. So I want you to see the number 4 shape when I turn on the clicky copy. You see the number 4 shape, which is the shine spot right over here? Well, I'm going to grab that color right now. Okay, good. Now what I'm going to do here is click to number 4 and then turn off the clicky copy and make a selection of it, of course, and Alt Backspace. Now, those are the 4 shapes. In my opinion, there's a 5th one that is right here. Do you see this? I should make a number 5 layer, which I actually did, but I don't think I drew out that shape. Let me see if I drew it out. No, I didn't draw out that shape. So what I want to do is to make a new path. Give me a second, and I'm going to draw out that shape that I see that comes back that has this little roundy top on it. See that roundy top right there? Then I'll come back around down like this. Then I'll go all the way to the bottom like this, and then I'll just join the 2 together. Let me move that down a little bit. Then I'll just join the 2 together like this. I'm going to call this number 5. Okay, I'll make a selection of it. I'll zoom in, with the B key and the Alt key, I'll grab that color. What am I going to do there? I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, just a tiny bit lighter. Now let me turn off the clicky copy, make sure I'm on number 5, and now Alt Backspace. Now there are all the values that I see in the clicky copy that you need to now work with. A lot of it is going to be just reducing them. So let's now turn off number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2, and click on number 1. Now I know I'm going to need a layer mask, so I'm going to add one right now. But I'm going to click back to the image, and let's Gaussian blur it to this fuzziness right here. Okay, so let's go up there. Let's Gaussian blur it. So I click and I go to my blur, and now I have it on 2, which isn't obviously enough. Let's go up to here, let's go up to here, let's go up a little bit more. Okay, it's way, there it is. So it's not 33, it's going to be something like this. So let me zoom in and show you that I'm pretty close. I'm probably just a little bit too much still. So let's go down to 20. And I like that. So let's go like this now, and we have that shape, which it looks like it needs to be reduced on the bottom. So let me turn the clicky copy on. You see how down here, let me hit the V key. You see down here how it's a little bit muted? Well, I'm going to take some of this away. So let's click to the layer mask. Let's hit the B key and make a huge brush. Big, big brush. Big. Like this big, massive big. Now let's make the flow down to about 8. Right hand click, Brian, and make sure you're all the way soft. Okay, I am. And I'm painting in black. So now I'm going to paint in black, and I'm going to reduce the amount of value on the bottom. And now that works. So now it looks very much like this. Okay, now let's go to layer 2. So I'm turning on layer 2. All right, now I have to remove a lot of layer 2. So again, I'm going to, with no selection active, add a layer mask for a minute from now. But look, I'm clicking back to the image. I'm going to zoom in so I can see how much to Gaussian blur this. So now let's take filter, Gaussian blur, and I'm not going to do it 20 pixels. I'm going to do it more like, actually 20 pixels looks pretty good. Actually 20 pixels looks awesome. So I'm going to leave it. Okay, now do you see the overspray that happened because I just did that? You see that overspray right there? Okay, so I have to now remove the overspray first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back to your overall, look, I'm going way back to the whole toaster, right? Make a selection of it, right? Inverse the selection, right? And now I can paint black on the outside if I click to the layer mask. So I'm going to get close. So now instead of painting inside, I'm painting outside, right? And I'm just going to take my black and paint on the outside to remove all that fuzziness. And now that looks good. So now let me hit deselect, and now let's, so I have no selection active, right? And I'm going to determine how much more I need to take off. Okay, so I'm going to show you. See right here how the dark red kind of goes to a lighter dark red up here? Well, I have too much dark red. So I'm going to click to the layer mask, hit the B key, make the brush a little smaller, and now look what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to paint just on this part right here, and I'm going to reduce the amount of dark red. So do you see how now it kind of matches the thing that I need it to match? I'll reduce a little bit over here too. Okay, let's go to number 3. Now, number 3 is a little bit harsh. So let's see what we need to do to it. So what do? We turn on the clicky copy, and we see that we need to Gaussian blur it and reduce a lot of the paint inside. So first we click to it, right? I'm going to add a blank layer mask because I know I'm going to need it. I click back to the image. I go to Gaussian blur, and I'm going to Gaussian blur that, but by a lot less. So let's go to about, I don't know, let's zoom in so I can see over here on your little copy. That's probably pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to say okay at 6.4 pixels. Now I'm clicking to the layer mask. I'm clicking to the layer mask, right? And I'm going to reduce the amount that's on the bottom. See over here how it kind of blends away and it's stronger on top? Okay, so now let's blend it away on the bottom a little bit. Okay, that worked really nicely. And I think that that's just about got it. Let me just take a little bit away from this side. This side meaning the left side. So let's just kind of diminish by painting a little bit down the, the right side, Deanna. The right side. Okay, so that one now worked out really well. Let's go do the number 4 shine. Okay, so here's your big shine spot, which we have to reduce a lot. So what am I going to do first? Yes, add a layer mask. Click back to the image. Let's go to Gaussian blur it, but this time not very much. So each time it's kind of like the same thing. Okay, actually I don't mind that. I don't mind how it Gaussian blurred. Let's go down to about 4 pixels. And that looks pretty good. So now this is going to be a little bit hard to explain, but I'm going to try. First I'll diminish a lot of it. All right, so carefully I'm going to take my brush, make it a little bigger. You see over here, let me actually turn on the clicky copy. Let me turn on the clicky copy. Okay, now I'm going to point. See the major part of the white is right on the left side of this, right? And then it diminishes as it moves up the corner. Okay, so let's turn off the clicky copy and let's use the same technique to actually diminish most of that. And now make the brush smaller, and carefully I'm going to paint down the right hand side. See how I'm painting down the right hand side? Now I don't care if I go too far, Deanna, because I can come back with white on the layer mask, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to actually hold my brush. Look at, see how it almost diminishes on the bottom as well? Okay, so let's kind of take our brush, make it bigger, and let's take most of it away. Okay, this is looking good. Now let's take most of it away. Okay, well you're going to say, well Brian, you're taking too much away. And I'm going to say, no. Remember that I can come back with my white. So I'm going to make the brush smaller, hit the X key, and I'm going to paint on the layer mask. Do you know that I think I have been making a very large mistake, Deanna? I might have to start over on this shape, and I'll tell you why. I wasn't painting on the layer mask. Goofy Brian was painting on the image. Hey, that happens all the time. So what happens when you mess up something? Well, the answer is don't panic. I'm going to throw it away. Now I'm going to put in a new layer, call it number 4 again, because I messed up. I'll actually add the layer mask. I'll click to the image. I'll go back to number 4. Yes, I messed up. So let me go back to number 4, which is right here. Now let me go grab the color again. So I'm going to zoom into this. And this is how you fix something right away. So now I grab the color, turn off. Let me go back over to my image. Fill it up again. So Alt Backspace. Now, this is where I made my mistake. I wasn't clicked on the layer mask when I was reducing things, which is a very big Brian stupid mistake. So I'm going to now do everything I just did, but I'm going to be on the layer mask, not painting on the image. So we all make mistakes, right? So I'm going to now take away most of this. I'm just going to run the brush straight up like this. So I'm actually removing almost everything that I've added in that white. Now, that's pretty much enough. Now I didn't Gaussian blur it, Deanna, so I'm going to click back to the image, right? I got to Gaussian blur it a little bit. So I'm going to click back to the image, go to blur, Gaussian blur it by let me go to 3 pixels. I'd feel better at 3 pixels. Now, I need to continue working on the layer mask, which is where I made my mistake before. So I click to my layer mask. This is where I now want to bring back a little bit more of the white. So how do I do that? Well, I make my brush relatively small. I hit the X key to paint white back. Look at the layer mask down here. The black took away the intensity of the bright, right? The white. So now, if I just run my brush down the left-hand side a little bit, do you see how I'm bringing back that little bit of white, which was already there? Now, if I make a mistake, I'm just going to Control Z it back, or I'll just do it again. So now, I need to look at how that white, look at how the left side of this is a little bit more crisp. So let me come down to this side, and let me now just hit the left side, come up like this, come down like this. That looks really nice. Okay, now that is how we make this thing work. So I had to actually fix a mistake. Okay, now that's pretty good. I'm kind of happy with that. I think that that has the shine feel that we need to have. There's another light value that I see it coming up like this and coming down. Well, I didn't even draw that yet. So I didn't finish number 5 either. So here's that number 5 shape. Let me turn it off and on right there. See that number 5 shape? Well, I need to click to it, Gaussian blur it just a little bit, maybe 4 or 5 pixels. Okay, now I like that shape. Here, I'll show it to you. This is the shape if I come close. So do you see the shape that I'm talking about? I'll turn it off and on. Do you see that shape? So now let's see what happens with that shape. Actually, I have it pretty good already. The top needs to diminish a little bit. So what do I need? A layer mask, bigger brush. I'm painting in white, which is not doing anything to the layer mask, right, Deanna? So I need to hit the X key. Now I'm going to paint a little bit of black on the top, and now that looks good. Now I think I need a last one, which I'll call number 6. Now, what is number 6 going to be? Well, it's going to be this shape, which I'm going to draw out very quickly. So watch how I draw this shape out. It'll follow that, right there, that curve. It'll come all the way up to here. Actually, it goes all the way across the top, and it's a little bit of a bright thing. So let's go take this. I'm doing this on purpose with you so that you can see that sometimes we have to make additions or edits for all the small shapes. So do you see how I'm drawing this little white shine spot? Look at, I'm trying to be careful, trying not to use a ton of points, but do you see how I'm actually drawing it out pretty well? Okay, now let's go down this side, and I'm going to use a light pink on it and then a little bit of white on it, and I think it'll work perfectly. So now let's come this way. Let's turn the corner here and come and join it back in. Now that's number 6. Okay, so let me name it number 6. Let me save the file, make a selection of it. Now, we're going to paint with it, but I'm going to paint, and now I can't see the top of it, so I'm going to hit Command or Control H to hide it. This is like the last part of what we're doing. So I'm going to take the B key and sample this bright value right there. Now, it's going to look way too bright when I paint it. All right, so let me turn it off, hit Alt Backspace, and yes, it's way too bright, right? But that's what they make layer masks for. So I'm going to deselect, all right, deselect, add a layer mask to it, and now we're going to turn on the clicky copy and see if I have to Gaussian blur it by just 1 or 2 pixels. So I click on that big bright white thing, go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur it by about the same amount of pixels, maybe 3. 2.8 is what I did. And now let's remove most of what I've painted. So with a big paintbrush, I need to look at the clicky copy. Okay, let's actually now paint out, making sure I'm on the layer mask. Let's paint out most of what I did right here. So now you see how I barely have anything in there. Okay, look at the big black blob on the layer mask. It took away almost everything from there, and look at how nice that looks. Oh my gosh. Let's paint out a little bit more right up here. Okay, now let's look across the top. And I need to take out more coming down this way, leaving only that intense white on the, oops, I went too far. See, so I have to hit the X key, put a little bit back there. Now, there it is. There's your shine. Took me 6 shapes to get there. It's pretty good. Now let's turn on all your other stuff that you did, and I don't think that we need your 2 red shapes anymore. Okay, so I'm not going to turn those back on. Not. All right? Now I want to turn on, let me get close. Now I want to turn on your slots, which you did beautifully, your lights, your shapes, your bottom dials, and that. And now there is your shine. Hope that helped. Let me know.